10. Drew University, Madison, New Jersey. Founded in 1867, Drew University was originally built as a seminary for Methodist ministers. The land it sits on was once a grand estate owned by William Gibbons, a wealthy businessman who made his fortune in horse racing. But the estate had its own dark past. Some claim that before the university was built, the land was home to supernatural occurrences. Servants in the Gibbons mansion whispered about unexplained voices, flickering lights, and shadowy figures that roamed the halls. After Gibbons' death, the estate was sold and transformed into Drew Theological Seminary, later becoming Drew University. But whatever haunted the land before, never left. Today, Drew University is home to multiple spirits, each tied to tragic events and eerie encounters. 1. The Haunted Mead Hall, a mansion of shadows. Mead Hall, once the heart of the Gibbons estate, is said to be the most haunted building on campus. Students and faculty have reported phantom footsteps echoing through the halls at night. Doors opening and closing on their own, as if someone unseen is walking through. A shadowy figure standing at the top of the staircase, only to vanish when approached. Some believe it is William Gibbons himself, still lingering in his former home, unwilling to let go of his earthly ties. Others claim to hear the cries of a woman, possibly a former servant who met a tragic fate within these walls. 2. The Ghost of Hoyt Hall, the Mysterious Woman in White. Hoyt Hall, one of the university's dormitories, has its own spine-chilling legend. Many students have reported seeing a ghostly woman in white wandering the hallways at night. She is often described as pale, with long flowing hair, and wearing an old-fashioned dress. Some say she stands at the foot of their bed, watching them sleep, before disappearing into thin air. Who is she? No one knows for sure. But those who have seen her say they will never forget it. 3. The Unseen Presence in Asbury Hall. Asbury Hall, another dormitory, is known for strange noises and unexplained activity. Students have described hearing whispers when no one is around, feeling sudden cold spots, even in the heat of summer, objects moving on their own, books falling off shelves, lights flickering, and chairs shifting. Some believe this is the spirit of a former student who met an untimely death, forever trapped within the walls of Drew University. Drew University has seen countless eerie incidents over the years. 1. The Phantom Faces in Windows. Late at night, students passing by Mead Hall and Hoyt Hall have reported seeing faces in the windows, staring out at them, faces that should not be there. Some have even captured ghostly images on their phones, only to find distorted, shadowy figures staring back at them. 2. The Locked Room Mystery. One chilling event involved a group of students who heard banging and screams from a locked dorm room in Hoyt Hall. When they managed to get inside, the room was completely empty. Yet the bed sheets were disturbed, and the air felt ice cold, sending chills down their spines. 3. The Spirit That Calls Your Name. Many students studying late at night in the library or walking alone through campus have claimed to hear a voice softly calling their name. When they turn around, no one is there. Some believe this is the spirit of a former student or faculty member, forever trying to make contact with the living. Drew University is a place of history, learning, and ghostly legends. The spirits that walk its halls seem to be tied to the land, unwilling, or unable, to move on. From the shadowy figure in Mead Hall to the lady in white of Hoyt Hall, the stories of Drew University's hauntings continue to grow with each passing year. So, the next time you find yourself walking the campus at night, listen carefully. If you hear a whisper behind you, feel a chill in the air, or see a shadow move where no one should be, you are not alone. 9. The University of Notre Dame, South Bend, Indiana. Founded in 1842 by a group of French Catholic priests, the University of Notre Dame was envisioned as a place of education, faith, and discipline. It quickly became one of the most respected institutions in America. But with such a long and storied history, tragedy was inevitable. The school survived massive fires, tragic accidents, and even untimely deaths, each leaving behind a mark that, some say, never truly faded. And as the years passed, whispers of strange occurrences began to spread. Something, or someone, had never left. Notre Dame is home to multiple haunted locations, each with its own chilling story. 1. The ghost of George Gyp, the lost legend. Perhaps the most famous spirit at Notre Dame is George Gyp, one of the greatest football players in the school's history. Gyp was a star athlete in the early 1900s, known for his talent and fearless spirit. But in 1920, he fell ill with pneumonia and tragically passed away at the age of 25. Before his death, he reportedly told coach Newt Rockne, "When the team is up against it, tell them to win just one for the Gypper." His words became legendary, but so did his spirit. To this day, students claim to see a shadowy figure roaming the football field at night. Some say they hear footsteps in the locker room, even when no one is there. Is George Gyp still watching over his team? 2. The Lady in Black, the spirit of Washington Hall. Washington Hall, one of the most historic buildings on campus, has its own spectral resident, the Lady in Black. The origins of this ghost remain unclear, but students and staff have reported seeing her eerie silhouette standing near the windows or floating down the dimly lit halls. Many claim they hear unexplained whispers, the sounds of a woman crying, or doors slamming shut on their own. No one knows exactly who she is, but one thing is certain, she is watching. 3. The haunted Basilica of the Sacred Heart. Even the beautiful Basilica of the Sacred Heart, the spiritual heart of Notre Dame, is not immune to the paranormal. Witnesses have reported seeing shadowy figures kneeling in prayer, only to vanish into thin air. Others claim they have heard soft chanting, even when the church is completely empty. It is as if the spirits of the past, priests, students, and lost souls, continue their worship beyond the grave. Notre Dame students and faculty have encountered more than just history on this campus. 1. Phantom footsteps in the hallways. Many have reported hearing footsteps echoing through the dormitories and academic buildings, only to find no one there. Some claim the sounds follow them, always staying just out of sight. 2. The disappearing figure. A common story involves students seeing a man in old-fashioned football gear walking across campus, only for him to vanish before their eyes. Could it be George Gyp still making his rounds? 3. Sudden cold spots and unexplained touches. Students in Washington Hall and other buildings have reported feeling icy chills, as if something unseen had passed right through them. Others have described the unsettling feeling of being watched, even when completely alone. Notre Dame is more than just a university, it is a place where history breathes and ghosts roam freely. From shadowy figures in Washington Hall to the eerie presence on the football field, something lingers here, something that refuses to be forgotten. 8. Huntingdon College, Montgomery, Alabama. Huntingdon College was founded in 1854, originally as Tuskegee Female College before relocating to Montgomery in 1909. Designed to offer a refined education to young women, the Gothic-style buildings of the new campus held promise, but soon, something dark took root. The campus was beautiful, but it had a reputation for isolation and loneliness. Many students who came here found themselves struggling with homesickness, and for one young woman, that sadness became unbearable. Her story would forever mark the college with a haunting unlike any other. The most famous ghost of Huntingdon College is known as the Red Lady. The legend speaks of a young woman, believed to be from a wealthy Southern family, who was sent to Huntingdon College in the early 1900s. She was described as quiet, introverted, and deeply unhappy. She felt trapped, isolated, and disconnected from the other students. Her sadness manifested in an unusual way. She surrounded herself with red. Everything in her room was red, her curtains, her bedspread, even her clothing. The deep crimson color seemed to reflect the sorrow consuming her heart. One night, the overwhelming loneliness became too much. She took her own life, her final moments bathed in the eerie glow of red candlelight. But her story didn't end there. Ever since that fateful night, students and faculty have reported chilling encounters with the Red Lady. 1. The blood-red glow. To this day, students claim to see a mysterious red light flickering in the halls of Pratt Hall, where her room once stood. The light glows and fades, even when no source can be found. 2. The silent figure. Witnesses have reported seeing a ghostly woman dressed entirely in red, standing in the shadows of the dormitory. She is always silent, always watching. Some say she vanishes when approached, but others have claimed that if you look too closely, her sorrowful eyes will never leave you. 3. The cold touch of the dead. Students have woken up in the middle of the night to the feeling of icy fingers brushing against their skin. They describe an overwhelming wave of sadness, as if someone is trying to pull them into their despair. 4. The whispering wind. Late at night, in empty hallways, a soft whisper drifts through the air, but the words are always just out of reach. Some believe it is the Red Lady's final cry for help, an echo of her lost soul wandering the dormitory. Even now, the story of the Red Lady lingers. New students arrive, unaware of the legend, until they experience something they can't explain. Doors slam on their own. Cold spots appear out of nowhere. The sound of footsteps follows students down the halls, even when no one is there. And sometimes, just sometimes, when a student finds themselves alone at night, they catch a glimpse of red at the end of the hallway. 7. Fordham University, Bronx, New York. Founded in 1841, Fordham University is one of the oldest institutions in New York. Originally named St. John's College, the school was established by the Jesuits and has a long tradition of academic excellence. However, the land it was built on had a dark past. Before Fordham, this land was home to an old hospital and burial grounds, places where the sick suffered, and many never left. Some believe the restless souls of those who perished never truly moved on, their spirits forever trapped beneath the foundations of the university. Adding to the eerie atmosphere, Keating Hall, one of Fordham's most famous buildings, was constructed on top of those very burial grounds. It is said that the spirits did not take kindly to being disturbed. It wasn't long before strange occurrences began to unsettle students and faculty. The upper floors of Keating Hall, which once housed Jesuit priests, became a hotspot for supernatural activity. Doors slam shut on their own, cold spots appear without explanation, and ghostly figures are seen roaming the corridors. One of the most terrifying legends speaks of the basement of Keating Hall, where an unknown dark presence lingers. Students who have ventured into the depths of the building report a feeling of being watched, and some even claim to have been pushed by unseen hands. But Keating Hall isn't the only haunted building. Other parts of campus, including Martyrs Court and Collins Auditorium, are also plagued by spirits that refuse to rest. One of the most chilling encounters took place in Keating Hall's basement. A group of students entered on a dare, but as soon as they stepped inside, the temperature dropped dramatically. One student felt a sudden, agonizing pressure on his chest, as if invisible hands were trying to strangle him. Moments later, the entire group heard a low, guttural growl coming from the darkness. They fled, but the feeling of terror never left them. Another well-known tale comes from Martyrs Court, a dormitory with a sinister reputation. Students report waking up in the middle of the night to the sight of a shadowy figure standing at the foot of their beds, only for it to vanish when the lights are turned on. The Collins Auditorium is also home to a ghostly entity. Actors rehearsing late at night claim to see figures in the audience, only to realize the theater is completely empty. Disembodied voices have been heard whispering from the stage, and some say the sound of phantom applause fills the air after rehearsals. The hauntings of Fordham University are not just ghost stories, they are living legends that continue to this day. Students, staff, and visitors still experience unexplainable events, from flickering lights to objects moving on their own. Some believe that the university's history cannot be erased, and the spirits of the past will never leave. 6. St. Mary's College, Moraga, California. Founded in 1863 in San Francisco, St. Mary's College was established by the Christian Brothers, a Catholic teaching order. Over the years, the institution grew, and in 1928, it relocated to its current location in Moraga, surrounded by rolling hills and a peaceful landscape. But beneath its serene beauty lies a history of tragedy and loss. The Christian Brothers lived and taught at the school, but many fell ill over the years, their spirits rumored to linger in the very buildings where they once resided. One particular building, the Dante Hall, was once a monastery, housing the brothers in their final years. Some believe their spirits never truly left, forever bound to the place they once called home. And then, the hauntings began. Students, faculty, and visitors began to notice strange occurrences. Whispering voices in empty hallways, lights flickering without reason, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched became common experiences. One of the most chilling hauntings is associated with the ghost of a monk, seen walking the corridors late at night. Some students claim they've seen his shadowy figure gliding past doorways, his presence marked by an icy chill in the air. Another hotspot of paranormal activity is Assumption Hall, where unexplained footsteps echo through the halls, as if someone is pacing endlessly, only, when checked, the hallways are empty. But the most terrifying legends? Those belong to the ghost of the White Cross and the spirit in the library. One of the most infamous stories comes from a student who was studying late in the library. She was completely alone when she suddenly felt a cold breath on the back of her neck. When she turned around, no one was there, but the chair across from her was slowly rocking on its own. In the hallway of Dante Hall, students report seeing a mysterious white cross appear on the walls at night, only for it to vanish by morning. Some believe this is a spiritual marking, left behind by a brother who passed away within the building. Then there's the legend of the Screaming Monk, a terrifying tale of a spirit that lets out an agonizing scream in the dead of night. Some students, brave enough to investigate, claim to have seen a shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway, staring at them, before suddenly disappearing into thin air. The stories of St. Mary's College are not just old legends, they continue to this day. Students and faculty still report strange sounds, ghostly whispers, and flickering lights. Some claim to have seen dark figures lurking in doorways, while others have felt an unseen hand brush against them in an empty room. What truly makes St. Mary's College one of the most haunted schools in America is the consistency of these experiences. They don't fade, they don't stop, and they don't disappear. The spirits of the past are still here, wandering the halls, watching, waiting. 5. The University of Georgia, Athens, Georgia. Founded in 1785, the University of Georgia is the oldest public university in the U.S. Its long and storied history includes wars, tragedies, and unexplained disappearances, all of which have left their mark on the campus. During the Civil War, Athens became a strategic location, and many buildings were used as hospitals for wounded soldiers. Countless men took their last breath within these walls, and some believe their spirits still linger. One of the most infamous buildings on campus is the Old North Campus, which dates back to the early 19th century. It was home to many students, but it also bore witness to duels, suicides, and mysterious deaths. And then, the hauntings began. Over the decades, students and faculty began reporting strange and terrifying encounters. Unexplained cold spots, doors slamming shut on their own, and whispers in the dead of night became part of UGA's eerie reputation. But it was one particular dormitory that became the epicenter of the paranormal, Waddell Hall. Once a professor's residence, it is now one of the most haunted locations on campus. Late at night, students have reported hearing ghostly footsteps climbing the stairs, even when no one else was inside. Others claim to have seen shadowy figures standing in the windows, watching them from above. But the most chilling tale? The phantom knocking on doors, only to find no one on the other side. One of the most well-known spirits at UGA is that of Dr. William Tate, a former dean whose ghost is said to walk the campus at night. Some students claim to have seen his apparition strolling down the paths, dressed in an old-fashioned suit, only to vanish into thin air when approached. In Alpha Gamma Delta House, legend tells of a girl who fell to her death from a balcony decades ago. Residents have reported hearing her cries at night, and some say they've seen a figure in a white dress standing near the edge of the balcony, as if repeating the moment of her tragic fall, over and over again. Then there's the legend of the cursed tree, a massive, ancient oak near the chapel bell tower. Students whisper that if you walk around it 3 times at midnight, you might hear a voice calling your name. Some even claim they've felt an invisible hand grab their shoulder before running away in terror. And perhaps the most terrifying story of all comes from Phi Kappa Hall, where students have heard disembodied voices laughing and whispering late at night. Some say they've even seen books fly off the shelves as if an unseen force was searching for something. Even today, students and faculty continue to experience unexplainable phenomena. Some believe the ghosts of fallen soldiers still march through the campus. Others think the spirits of students who met tragic fates are forever bound to the university. Whether it's the sound of ghostly footsteps, the sight of a flickering light in an empty room, or the feeling of someone standing behind you when no one is there, UGA is a place where the past refuses to rest. 4. University of Montevallo, Montevallo, Alabama. Originally founded in 1896 as the Alabama Girls Industrial School, the University of Montevallo has a long and rich history. It was established to educate young women, but before that, the land itself held deep secrets. The area was once home to Native American tribes, Civil War soldiers, and even violent duels between men who never left their battles behind. One of the most infamous figures in Montevallo's history was Captain Henry Clay Reynolds, a Confederate officer who later became the school's first president. He lived in Reynolds Hall, where some believe his spirit still lingers. But perhaps the most unsettling part of Montevallo's past is the King House, one of the oldest buildings on campus. Built in the 1820s, it was the site of a tragic fire that claimed lives, leaving behind a presence that refuses to be forgotten. And then, the hauntings began. Over the decades, strange occurrences started to unfold. Lights flickered without explanation, objects moved on their own, and ghostly figures appeared when no one else was around. But it wasn't just one building, it was everywhere. Students reported hearing footsteps echoing down empty hallways, doors slamming shut with no one nearby, and whispers in their ears, even when they were completely alone. One of the most terrifying legends involves a woman in white, seen wandering the dormitories, vanishing into thin air before anyone can get close. But nothing compares to the terrifying encounters inside Reynolds Hall and the King House. One night, a student staying in Reynolds Hall woke up to the feeling of someone watching him. When he turned to look, he saw a man in Confederate attire standing at the foot of his bed. The figure locked eyes with him for a few seconds, then disappeared. In King House, multiple students have witnessed a rocking chair moving on its own. Some say it's the spirit of Edmund King, the former plantation owner who built the house. Others believe it's one of the victims of the fire, forever trapped inside. A group of students once dared to stay inside King House overnight. Around midnight, they heard soft knocking on the walls, followed by whispers growing louder and louder. The next morning, they found deep scratch marks on the floor, as if something had clawed its way across the room. And then there's the Red Lady of Main Hall, a ghostly figure seen glowing bright red, wandering the hallways at night. She is believed to be Condi Cunningham, a young girl who tragically burned to death in her dorm room in the early 1900s. Some say you can still hear her screams, and if you look closely at one of the old dorm doors, you can see her face burned into the wood, a chilling reminder of a fire that never truly went out. Even today, Montevallo students report unexplainable experiences. Some claim to hear music playing from empty rooms, others see shadowy figures in their dorms. A few have even sworn that time itself feels different here, as if some moments are caught in an endless loop of the past. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: the University of Montevallo is not just a place of learning, it is a place where history refuses to stay buried. 3. El Paso High School, El Paso, Texas. Built in 1916, El Paso High School is the oldest operating high school in the city. Its grand architecture, with towering columns and intricate designs, gives it a regal presence. But beneath its beauty lies a history of sorrow and mystery. During World War I, the school was temporarily used as a makeshift morgue. Hundreds of bodies were stored here, waiting for burial. Over time, the building absorbed the lingering grief and despair. But perhaps the most tragic story is that of a young girl who jumped to her death from one of the balconies. Some say it was suicide, others claim she was pushed. Regardless, her death left a permanent stain, literally. No matter how many times the school repainted the spot where her body hit the ground, the mark always bled through. And then, the hauntings began. Students and faculty started noticing something unnatural about the school. Doors would slam shut on their own, eerie whispers would echo down empty hallways, and sometimes, strange fog would suddenly roll in, even on the clearest days. But one mystery shocked everyone. A yearbook photo from 1985 revealed a girl who didn't exist. The picture showed a young woman in an old-fashioned dress, with a blank, expressionless stare. The strangest part? No one in the class recognized her. Even the teacher swore she was never in the class. But the paranormal activity doesn't stop there. One night, a janitor was cleaning the gymnasium when he heard the sound of a basketball bouncing. He turned around, expecting to find a student, but the gym was empty. The bouncing continued, growing louder, closer. Then, the doors slammed shut on their own. When he managed to open them again, the gym was completely silent, as if nothing had ever happened. In another terrifying incident, a group of cheerleaders was practicing when they saw a dark figure standing at the edge of the bleachers. Thinking it was a teacher, they called out. The figure vanished into thin air. Some students have even claimed that they've seen a ghostly girl in a blue dress walking the halls, believed to be the student who took her life. She appears in old stairwells, only to disappear before anyone can reach her. And then, there are the sealed-off tunnels beneath the school. During the war, these tunnels were used to move bodies. Now, they are locked away, but strange noises can still be heard from below, moaning, crying, and sometimes, the sound of footsteps pacing back and forth. Even today, students and faculty report unexplainable experiences. Some believe the spirits of El Paso High School are trapped between worlds, unable to move on. Others think the school itself is a gateway, a place where time and reality have become blurred. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: El Paso High School is a place where history refuses to stay buried. 2. Gettysburg College, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Established in 1832, Gettysburg College was a place of learning long before it became a battleground. But in July 1863, during the Battle of Gettysburg, everything changed. The campus, particularly Pennsylvania Hall, the oldest building, was converted into a makeshift field hospital for wounded soldiers. The halls that once echoed with lectures and student chatter became filled with the sounds of agonized screams and dying breaths. Amputation was the most common treatment, and without proper anesthesia, soldiers were subjected to unimaginable pain. Blood-soaked floors, piles of severed limbs, and walls that seemed to absorb the horrors of war, this was the gruesome reality of Gettysburg College during those fateful days. Many of these soldiers never left. Their bodies were carried away, but their spirits remained, locked between worlds, forever bound to the place of their suffering. And that's when the hauntings began. As the years passed, Gettysburg College resumed its role as a prestigious institution. But students and faculty began to experience unexplainable events, doors slamming shut on their own, ghostly apparitions wandering the halls, and the sound of disembodied whispers when no one was around. Pennsylvania Hall, once a field hospital, quickly became the epicenter of paranormal activity. Janitors working late at night reported hearing the cries of soldiers, the clanking of metal tools, and even the ghostly figures of nurses and surgeons performing their grim duties, trapped in a never-ending cycle of war and death. And the deeper you dig, the darker the stories become. Perhaps the most famous paranormal encounter happened to two college administrators in the basement of Pennsylvania Hall. One evening, while using the elevator, they suddenly found themselves descending into another time, the Civil War era. When the doors opened, they stood in a fully operational field hospital. Wounded soldiers lay moaning on blood-soaked cots. Overwhelmed nurses scrambled to save lives. And then, one of the surgeons looked up and made direct eye contact with them. Just as panic set in, the elevator doors slammed shut, and when they reopened, the vision was gone. They were back in the present. But the terror they felt, that never left. Another eerie incident took place in Schmucker Hall, another former hospital on campus. Students living there reported hearing heavy boots marching through the hallways, followed by knocking sounds at their doors. But when they checked, no one was there. And then there's the ghost soldier of Stevens Hall. Students in the dormitory have frequently reported seeing a lone Union soldier standing guard in their rooms, his face shadowed, his stance firm. He does not speak, he does not move. And then, in the blink of an eye, he disappears. Gettysburg College isn't just haunted, it's a place where history refuses to die. The spirits of soldiers, nurses, and even civilians caught in the crossfire seem to be trapped in time, replaying their last moments over and over again. Paranormal investigators, students, and faculty alike all agree on one thing: Gettysburg College is one of the most active haunted locations in America. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: when you step onto this campus, you are never alone. 1. Ohio University, Athens, Ohio. Founded in 1804, Ohio University is one of the oldest public universities in the United States. Built in the scenic but isolated town of Athens, the campus quickly gained a reputation for its academic excellence. However, beneath the surface of this prestigious institution lay a darker, more mysterious past. The university was constructed on land with a tragic history. It is believed to be near ancient Native American burial grounds, a claim that many say has contributed to the eerie energy of the campus. But that's not all. Nearby, the Athens Lunatic Asylum, also known as the Ridges, was established in 1874. The asylum housed thousands of mentally ill patients, many of whom suffered inhumane treatments such as lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and prolonged isolation. Some of them died within its walls, and their restless spirits are said to have never left. Over time, Ohio University developed a reputation for being one of the most haunted campuses in the country. But what exactly happened here? As students and faculty came and went, reports of paranormal activity started to surface, particularly in Wilson Hall, one of the most infamous buildings on campus. In the 1970s, a student was found dead in her dorm room under mysterious circumstances. It was rumored that she had been practicing dark occult rituals, attempting to communicate with the spirits of the dead. Ever since her passing, the room she lived in has been declared permanently uninhabitable, the only dormitory room on campus to receive such a classification. Strange whispers have been heard echoing through the halls, lights flicker for no reason, and objects move on their own. Some students even claim to wake up in the middle of the night to see a shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed. But Wilson Hall is not the only haunted location. The university is surrounded by 5 cemeteries, forming a pentagram when mapped out. Paranormal investigators believe this could be a source of the intense supernatural energy that lingers in the area. One of the most terrifying encounters comes from a former resident of Wilson Hall. She woke up one night to the sound of scratching on her dorm walls. At first, she thought it was just an animal outside. But then, the scratching moved inside the room. She turned on her light, only to find deep, claw-like marks on the walls, marks that weren't there before she went to sleep. Another student reported feeling unseen hands grip her ankles as she climbed out of bed. She screamed and jumped up, but no one was there. When she turned on the lights, bruises had already started to form on her legs. In the Ridges, the old mental asylum, the spirit of a woman named Margaret Schilling still roams the halls. Margaret was a patient who mysteriously vanished in 1978. Her body was found weeks later, locked inside an abandoned wing of the hospital. To this day, a permanent stain in the shape of her body remains on the floor, unable to be scrubbed away. Many visitors to the ridges claim to hear faint screams, see figures in hospital gowns wandering the halls, and even feel a suffocating pressure as if something unseen is watching them. Despite its chilling past, Ohio University continues to operate, with thousands of students walking the haunted grounds every day. Some dismiss the stories as superstition, while others refuse to set foot in Wilson Hall or visit the ridges alone. Is Ohio University truly cursed? Are these spirits trapped between worlds, still trying to make their presence known? One thing is certain, those who dare to explore after dark often come back with stories they wish they had never told.